Hi, good day everyone. My name is Roxanne Yugto, a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education, major in Social Studies. And for today, I am going to discuss my topic, which is all about the sources of literary text and materials for oral interpretation. In literary research, literary texts are the main primary sources. More broadly, primary resources are the first-hand accounts taken from the first period an event occurs. These types of sources includes diaries, letters, newspapers, photographs, maps, and others. So, in literary text, it is a genre of literature that transmits a message artistically and creatively. Literary texts focus on both content and form. Pictures, books, cartoons, fictions, and fairy tales are good examples of narrative text. A literary text is a piece of writing, such as a book or poem, that has a purpose of telling a story or entertaining, as in a fictional novel. Its primary function as a text is usually static, but it may also contain political messages or beliefs. So, in other common examples of primary resources includes speeches, letters, diaries, autobiographies, interviews, official reports, court records, artifacts, photographs, and drawings. Next, we will have the oral interpretation. So, what does oral interpretation means? An oral interpretation is a social activity that takes place in educational settings in which students show their ability to understand, analyze, and interpret classroom materials and their effective use of linguistic and interpersonal resources, typically at upper, intermediate, and advanced levels of instructions. So, what are the examples of oral interpretation? So, when, for example, the writer David Sedaris reads one of his stories on stage, or when Leonard Cohen performed one of his lyric poems, they are both engaged in the art of oral interpretations. So, what is the importance of oral interpretation? Oral interpretations are very productive types of genres for students to show their critical interpretive skills, their ability to organize their ideas, and to express them with effective language choices. So there are six oral interpretation categories. First is the prose interpretation, poetry interpretation, dramatic interpretation, program oral interpretation, dramatic review interpretation, and reader's theater. What is prose interpretation? Prose interpretation is a fiction or non-fiction performance piece which may be drawn from a short story, essay, or novel. So the focus of this event is on the development of narrative story. Play cuttings and poetry are also prohibited, and also the use of manuscript is required. Next, we have what is poetry interpretation? Poetry interpretation is a selection or selections of poetry which may be drawn from more than one source. So, a primary focus of this event should be on the development of language. Play cuttings and prose work are prohibited, and also the use of manuscript is also required. Next, we have what is dramatic interpretation? Dramatic interpretation is a performance piece that represents one or more characters from a stage play, movie, or radio show. So, the focus of this event is on the development of characterization. Use of manuscript is also required. Next, we have what is program oral interpretation? Program oral interpretation is a program of thematically linked selections, chosen from 2 or 3 different genres of competitive interpretation, prose, poetry, and drama. So a primary focus of this event should be on the development of the theme through the use of narrative story, language, and or characterization. A substantial portion of the total time must be devoted to each of genres used in the program. Next, what is dramatic Jew interpretation? Dramatic Jew interpretation is a cutting from a play or plays, humorous or serious, involving the portrayal of two or more characters presented by two individuals. The materials may be drawn from stage, screen, or radio. This is not an acting event, thus no costumes, props, lighting, and etc. are to be used. Presentation is from the manuscript and the focus should be off stage and not to each other. The last one, which is what is Reader's Theater? Reader's Theater is defined as interpretation of literature by a group of oral readers who act as a medium of expression for an audience, while Reader's Theater is both oral and visual. The emphasis on the oral interpretation of the printed work and its resultant effects on the minds, emotion, and imaginations of the listeners and the viewers. The audience should have the feelings of a unified whole in which performers at all times contributes to the total effect desired. Theaters must have a minimum of 3 performers and a maximum of 14. The time limitation is 25 minutes with 2 minutes allowed for setup and takedowns. So that would be all for my report. Thank you for listening and have a good day everyone.